Greetings once again. Today we're going to talk about the state of journalism in America. By America, I'm talking about the United States of America. I'll try to make this presentation succinct, meaning very brief, concise, and yet, to the point, and hopefully with enough insights that could augment the kind of work that we're doing in the discourse about journalism right now. And I think it'll be a nice addition. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start the slide presentation. So bear with me as I navigate through the technology here, a technological landscape, and get things going for us. Okay. Here we are, journalism in America. Let's start with a brief history. And like I said earlier, I'll make it short and to the point. The history of journalism in America is rich and complex, reflecting the evolution of the nation itself. From its early roots to the modern digital age, journalism has played a crucial role in shaping American society and democracy. As you know, you will agree that the press, the heart of journalism, is essentially the unofficial fourth branch of our government, where we use journalism to hold the feet of the powerful people in the government, whether it's in the judicial or the executive, the administrative, legislative, to the fire and demand the truth. And the job of the journalist is to deliver the truth unbiased and objectively. So let's start with the colonial era, where the first form of newspaper was published in America. By colonial era, I'm referring to the 1600s to 1700s. The first newspapers in America were established in the late 17th century. Public occurrences, both foreign and domestic, and let me spell this because the spelling is very different than what you might think today. Public is same as public, Publick. Occurrences, Occurrences, both foreign, Foreign, and domestic, Domestic. It was published in 1690, and it is considered by most historians the first American newspaper, though it was shut down after a single issue. The early press primarily served political and commercial interests, often facing censorship and control by colonial governments. Then when we move forward to the Revolutionary period, that's the late 1700s, we see that the American Revolution spurred a new wave of journalistic activity. Pamphlets, newspapers, and broadsides played a vital role in rallying support for independence. Thomas Paine's Common Sense, this is a very famous publication, was published in 1776, and it's the most famous example of the era. And then when we move forward to the 19th century, the 1830s to 1940s, essentially about a decade, we see the emergence of the penny press. The rise of the penny press is characterized by affordable prices and a focus on sensationalism. Papers like the New York Sun and the New York Herald pioneered this style, reaching a broader audience and influencing public opinion. When we move to the Civil War era and the Reconstruction period, and I'm talking about roughly from the 1860s to 1870s, for about a decade again, the Civil War marks a turning point for American journalism. The war correspondents, or the so-called the Boys in Blue, provided firsthand accounts of the conflict, shaping public perception and influencing policy. In the late 19th century, we also see the emergence of yellow journalism, which is still with us today. if not with more gusto and power, given the digital age and its 24/7 news cycle existence and so forth. The late 19th century is when a yellow journalism emerges. It's characterized by sensationalism, exaggerated stories, and blatant manipulation of facts. William Randolph Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer were prominent figures in this era, using their newspapers to influence public opinion and political outcomes. The irony that I should mention here is that Joseph Pulitzer, who was one of the pioneers of yellow journalism, also set up a funding of sorts. And today, the most prominent journalists, those who are celebrated for their journalistic integrity, are given the Pulitzer Prize. Muckraking era is the late 19th century and the early 20th century. In response to yellow journalism, muckrakers emerged. Investigative journalists are the muckrakers who expose corruption and social issues. Their work led to significant reforms, such as those seen in Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which exposed the meatpacking industry, to be specific. Then when we move over to the world wars, this is World War I and II, and beyond, including the Vietnam War, this is 20th century. We see that journalism evolves alongside technology, because we have radio and television, who become dominant forms of media, with journalists like Edward Murrow and Walter Cronkite shaping public opinion on major events like World War II and the Vietnam War. When Walter Cronkite reported about the Vietnam War on television and talked about the body bags, this is the young men who were sent to Vietnam and were killed and sent back home in body bags. And Walter Cronkite offered very strong journalistic opinion about what was happening. It's famously told that Richard Nixon said that if we lose Walter Cronkite, or rather he said, we lost Walter Cronkite, that means we lost the war. Now let's talk about journalism in the digital age. I'm talking about the late 20th century to the present time. The rise of the internet in the late 20th century revolutionized journalism. News became more accessible, leading to the decline of traditional print media. Social media further changed the landscape, and platforms like Twitter, now known as X, and Facebook, alongside Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, were reshaping how news is disseminated and consumed. Of course, as a side note, TikTok is also a competitor in this field. The principal owners of TikTok are a Chinese company, yet they have the American satellite form here, and it's very popular with young American men and women, particularly kids all the way to young adults. Throughout its history, American journalism has faced challenges such as censorship, bias, and the struggle to maintain journalistic integrity in the face of economic pressures. Despite these challenges, journalism remains a cornerstone of American democracy. Let me repeat that. Despite all the challenges, all the flaws, all the problems that we're faced with regarding journalism, it's still a cornerstone of our democracy, holding power to account and informing the public discourse. Now, I want to talk about yellow journalism a little more in depth. The question is, what's wrong with yellow journalism? Yellow journalism, with its emphasis on sensationalism and exaggeration to attract readers, continues to be a concern in the 21st century. And let me talk about the pitfalls. One of them is the spread of misinformation. Yellow journalism often prioritizes attracting attention over accuracy. In the digital age, this can lead to the rapid spread of misinformation, as sensationalized or false stories are shared widely on social media platforms without verification. Number two, the erosion of trust. Sensationalist reporting can erode public trust in journalism. When stories are exaggerated or manipulated to fit particular narrative, audiences may become skeptical of all news sources, leading to a broader distrust of the media. And we are seeing that this is generally the state of affairs these days. Number three is polarization and divisiveness. Yellow journalism can contribute to polarization by presenting stories in a way that reinforces existing beliefs or biases. This can further divide society and hinder constructive dialogue on important issues. Then there is the phenomenon of clickbait, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Clickbait and revenue-driven reporting is the problem. In the digital age, news outlets may prioritize clickbait headlines and sensational stories to drive traffic and ad revenue. This can lead to a focus on entertainment rather than informative journalism. The ethical concerns are very important. Yellow journalism can raise ethical concerns such as invasion of privacy, misrepresentation of facts, and exploitation of sensitive topics for profit or political gain. This can damage the credibility of journalists and news organizations. There is the impact on democracy. Sensationalized reporting can distort public perceptions of reality, influencing political decisions and undermining the democratic process. Of course, in extreme cases, it can even incite violence or social unrest. January 6th, 2020 comes to mind. The neglect of important issues, the focus on sensationalism, can lead to neglect of important but less flashy news stories. This can result in a lack of coverage for crucial issues that require public attention and action. Addressing these pitfalls requires a commitment to ethical journalism practices, including fact-checking, balanced reporting, and transparency. It also requires media literacy efforts to help the public discern between reliable information and sensationalized or misleading content. Now, let's get down to the specifics of the kinds of journalism that we should consider. There is print journalism, then there is TV journalism. And they are two distinct forms of media with their own strengths and weaknesses. Here's a comparison of the two. First of all, the format we have to look at. Print journalism encompasses newspapers, magazines, and online news articles. It relies on text and static images to convey information. Conversely, TV journalism involves broadcasting news stories through television channels. It combines audio, video, and graphics to present news in a visual format. So it's audio visual as opposed to static images and text. There is the difference in terms of audience reach. Print media has a more limited audience reach compared to TV, as it requires physical distribution or access to a computer or mobile device. But on the other hand, TV journalism has a much broader audience reach, as it can reach viewers in their homes and public spaces where TVs are available. This can be like a standard, TV reception or somebody getting TV on their computer screen. Print journalism, or we could call it print media, typically has a longer production cycle. So breaking news may not be as promptly reported compared to TV. TV journalism can report breaking news in real time, making it a more immediate source of information for viewers. Print journalism often provides more in-depth coverage of news stories with longer articles, more detailed analysis, whereas TV journalism tends to offer more concise coverage, focusing on key points and visuals to convey information quickly. Print journalism is not interactive, as readers cannot engage directly with the content or journalists. TV can be more interactive with features like call-in shows, live interviews, and audience polls. Print journalism relies on text and images, which may limit its ability to convey complex information or emotions compared to TV. TV can use visuals, such as video footage and graphics, to enhance the storytelling and evoke emotions in viewers. Print media is often perceived as more credible and trustworthy due to its long-standing reputation for thorough fact-checking and accuracy. TV journalism can be perceived as less credible, as it is sometimes criticized for prioritizing entertainment value over journalistic integrity. Both print journalism and TV journalism play important roles in the media landscape, offering different strengths and weaknesses. While print journalism excels in depth of coverage and credibility, TV journalism excels in immediacy and visual impact. Together, they provide audiences with a diverse range of news sources and formats to choose from. Let's take a closer look at traditional journalism versus what happens with social media. These aggregating platforms that offer us news, debate, interaction, comment sections, dialogue, and multidimensionality that the traditional journalism may not have. So traditional journalism is typically produced by professional journalists working for established news organizations, such as newspapers, magazines, and broadcast networks. However, on the other hand, social media journalism involves the dissemination of news by individuals, citizen journalists, and non-traditional news sources through social media platforms. Traditional journalism outlets often have longer production cycles, so breaking news may not be reported as quickly as on social media. Social media allows for the rapid dissemination of news, often in real time, making it a popular source for breaking news. Traditional media outlets are typically more focused on fact-checking and verification, which can contribute to higher credibility. Social media platforms can be prone to misinformation and also fake news, as there is often less oversight and verification of information. Traditional journalism, with their outlets, often provide more in-depth coverage of news stories with longer articles, more thorough analysis, just like the newspapers do. Social media journalism posts are typically shorter, more concise, leading to less detailed coverage of complex issues. Traditional journalism has limited audience engagement as they primarily deliver news in a one-way format. But social media allows for greater audience engagement through likes, comments, and shares, enabling users to participate in the news discourse, and so on. Traditional media outlets have a broad reach, but require access to specific platforms, for example, newspapers and TV channels. Social media journalism has a global reach and is accessible to anyone with an internet connection, making it a powerful tool for reaching a wide audience. And I'm talking about the scale. The scale of social media is global, meaning anywhere in the world that people have access to the internet, they can have access to social media. Of course, there are authoritarian countries such as China, North Korea, Iran, and so on, where the government tries to control and censor access to social media. But there are technologies where citizens, being crafty, find ways to go around it, such as very private networks, VPNs, that are very popular in those countries, where through that filtering, they can access all kinds of social media. So traditional journalism adhere to professional ethics and standards, including guidelines for accuracy, fairness, and accountability. That's a must with traditional journalism. But with social media journalism, there's less regulation, leading to concerns about ethical practices, such as privacy violations and sensationalism. While traditional journalism and social media journalism serve as important sources of news, they differ in terms of credibility, speed, audience engagement, and ethical standards. However, both play significant roles in the media landscape, providing audiences with diverse perspectives and information sources. So, what do we have in the future? What should we be looking at? Well, the future is multivalent. The future of journalism in America is being shaped by a combination of technological advancements, changing audience preferences, and evolving business models. While the landscape is complex and constantly evolving, several key trends are likely to influence the future of journalism. The shift to digital media continues to reshape journalism. Online news consumption has grown significantly, leading to the decline of traditional print media. News organizations are adapting by investing in digital platforms, multimedia storytelling, and online subscription models. Data journalism, which involves the analysis and presentation of data to uncover news stories, is becoming increasingly important. Automation, artificial intelligence, also known as AI, are also being used to assist journalists in tasks such as fact checking, data analysis, and even writing basic news stories. This is particularly useful in sports journalism. News organizations are focusing on engaging with their audience through social media, interactive content, and personalized news experiences. This trend is driven by the desire to build loyal audiences and increase subscription revenue. In an era of misinformation and fake news, trust and credibility are paramount for news organizations. Establishing transparency, fact checking rigorously, and adhering to ethical standards are crucial for maintaining trust with audiences. The rise of non-traditional news sources, such as social media influencers and independent journalists, is challenging the dominance of traditional media outlets. The trend is reshaping the news ecosystem and raising questions about the reliability of information. The traditional advertising-based business model for news organizations is under pressure. Many outlets are exploring new revenue streams, such as subscriptions, membership, and philanthropic funding to ensure their sustainability. There's a growing recognition of the importance of diversity and inclusion in journalism. Newsrooms are working to reflect the diversity of their audiences and to cover a broader range of perspectives and stories. The digital era has brought about new regulatory and legal challenges for journalism, including issues related to privacy, copyright, and online speech. Navigating these challenges will be critical for the future of journalism. The future of journalism in America is likely to be shaped by a combination of technological innovation, changing audience behaviors, and efforts to maintain trust and credibility. While the landscape is challenging, there are also opportunities for journalism to evolve and thrive in the digital age. And that's all I have for you regarding the state of journalism in America. Of course, by no means is this a comprehensive coverage of what's going on with journalism in this country. What is important is for us to have an understanding of what is traditional journalism, what is professional journalism versus what is citizen journalism, amateur journalism, if you will. With the digital tools at our possession, and relatively speaking, very affordable, people can be on the spot, picking up the facts and the truth and handing them over to traditional journalists and let them do the professional work. But can we trust all of the professional journalists? This is a big question to be answered. The extent to which they have editorial powers is what makes people somewhat skeptical about simply having traditional journalism as part of their society. So today, people are content producers themselves. So a combination of both, along with hopefully a democratic approach to regulation, I think will provide a very good future for a state of journalism in this country. And hopefully we can preserve our democracy and make it better, right? That's the idea. Uh, we are studying this stuff. We are developing discourses around it. For what purpose? For the purpose of fairness, accuracy, finding the truth, and putting it out there for people to make their own choices about the truth, and staying away from misinformation, disinformation, and also the danger of confirmation biases are there too. Only paying attention to the kind of journalism that kind of just offers the opinions that everybody agrees upon and always seeking those um, offers a huge pitfall, and that is not knowing what the others are thinking about, not knowing what the other perspectives are. So for my money, I always recommend gaining access to the kind of journalism that's available outside of America, right? But we can access it in America uh, vis-a-vis the internet. So with that said, I'll finish the lecture here and I'll see you next time.